In 1961, a psychiatrist locked himself in a small room with no windows and no clock. Within 36 hours he was hearing voices. Within 4 days he was begging to confess to crimes he had never committed. He was not weak. He was not unstable. He had one of the sharpest minds of his generation. And that was exactly why it worked. Most people picture brainwashing as something that happens to the gullible, the uneducated, the desperate, the weak-minded. The actual research points somewhere else entirely. Every documented case of mass coercive persuasion, from Korean War POW camps to modern high-control groups, shows the same pattern. The most educated, the most analytical, the most intelligent people were often the easiest to convert. Not despite their intelligence. Because of it. There are 5 mechanisms that explain why a sharp mind is not a defense against brainwashing, it is the raw material. And the 5th one is currently running on a device near you, right now. Welcome to DarkPsyche. In 1994, social psychologist Ari Kruglanski introduced a concept that reshaped how we understand belief formation, the need for cognitive closure. It describes a basic human discomfort with ambiguity. Uncertainty feels like an open wound. The mind wants it closed, and it does not always care how. Here is the part that surprises people. Kruglanski's research found that intelligent people often have a higher need for closure, not lower. Because their minds are constantly generating explanations, patterns, connections. An unresolved question does not just sit there quietly. It nags. A belief system that offers total explanations, for suffering, for purpose, for why the world feels broken, does not appeal to people who think less. It appeals to people who think constantly and are exhausted by the noise. Cults and high-control groups do not sell answers to the lazy. They sell silence to the overworked mind. In the early 1950s, social psychologist Edgar Schein studied returning American POWs from Chinese camps during the Korean War. What he found contradicted everything people assumed about brainwashing. The captors rarely forced beliefs directly onto prisoners. Instead, they asked small questions. Is America really a perfect country? Can you think of one example where it has failed someone? Small. Reasonable. Easy to answer honestly. Then they asked the prisoner to write the answer down. Then to read it aloud. Then to discuss it in a small group. Each step felt voluntary. Each step felt small. But psychology has a name for what happens when a person generates an argument in their own words. It is called self-generated persuasion, and it is far more powerful than any argument delivered to you. When the idea feels like yours, defending it stops being obedience. It becomes identity. Intelligent people are especially susceptible to this exact trap. They pride themselves on reasoning things through. So when a conclusion arrives through their own reasoning, even reasoning that was carefully guided toward that conclusion, they trust it completely. You cannot easily argue someone out of a belief they were never argued into. Sit with that for a second. Think about the last time you changed your mind about something important. Did it feel like someone convinced you? Or did it feel like you figured it out yourself? Now ask yourself how certain you can really be about the difference. In 2012, researcher Dan Kahan ran a study that should concern anyone who believes education solves misinformation. He gave participants a math problem disguised as data about a skin cream. When the data was politically neutral, people with higher numeracy skills solved it correctly far more often. But when the same numbers were reframed as data about a politically charged issue, something strange happened. The most mathematically skilled participants did not become more accurate. They became more polarized. Their skill was being used not to find the right answer, but to construct a more sophisticated case for the answer they already wanted. Kahan called this identity protective cognition. Intelligence does not remove bias. It upgrades its legal team. A person with a large vocabulary and a sharp analytical mind can construct a more convincing defense of a flawed belief than someone who never learned to argue at all. And the people around them, including the believer themselves, mistake the quality of the argument for the truth of the conclusion. Everything so far explains why smart people fall for bad ideas. But the next mechanism explains something darker, why, once they're in, they cannot get out. And it has almost nothing to do with the belief itself. If this is reframing how you think about your own certainty, that discomfort is the point. DarkPsyche exists to map the systems that operate on minds exactly like yours. Subscribe now so the next one finds you. In 1956, psychologist Leon Festinger infiltrated a small group that believed the world would end on a specific date. The date arrived. Nothing happened. Festinger expected the group to collapse. Instead, within hours, the members announced that their faith had saved the world. Membership did not shrink. It grew. This became the foundation of cognitive dissonance theory, the idea that holding two conflicting beliefs creates such intense psychological discomfort that the mind will distort reality itself to make it stop. Here is why intelligence makes this worse. An intelligent person who joins a belief system does not just adopt ideas. They invest reasoning. They build the intellectual scaffolding that supports the belief. They become, in their own mind, one of its architects. To abandon the belief now is not just admitting, I was wrong. It is admitting that the very instrument they trust most, their own mind, failed in a way they did not detect. For someone whose entire identity is built on being the smart one, the rational one, the one who sees through things, that admission is not just embarrassing. It is existential. So the mind does what Festinger's group did. It does not update. It reinforces. Every piece of contradicting evidence becomes proof of a wider conspiracy. Every person who leaves becomes proof they were never truly committed. Every doubt becomes a test that must be passed. The system seals itself using the believer's own intelligence as the welding torch. Let that sit for a moment. The smarter you are, the better you are at defending a belief once you've committed to it, regardless of whether it's true. Your intelligence does not ask, is this correct? It asks, how do I make this work? And it is terrifyingly good at its job. Every mechanism so far was documented in rooms, camps, and small groups. Now consider that the same four mechanisms are running, right now, on a screen most people check within minutes of waking up. Cognitive closure. An algorithm trained to feed you content that resolves your uncertainty, and agrees with you while doing it. Self-generated persuasion. Every time you write a comment defending your position, you are doing exactly what those Korean War interrogators asked their prisoners to do, putting the belief in your own words. Sophistication as a shield. The platform rewards the most articulate version of every bias with the most reach. And sealed system reinforcement. Every person who disagrees with you online can be dismissed as a bot, a bad actor, or simply not worth engaging. Your side, by contrast, just makes sense. No interrogator designed this. No cult leader sat in a boardroom and built this system on purpose. It was optimized, one engagement metric at a time, to do something that, historically, required years of deliberate human cruelty. And it does it to billions of people simultaneously. The psychiatrist from the beginning of this video eventually walked out of that room. It took him 4 days to lose his grip on reality. You do not need a locked room. You do not need an interrogator. You need an environment that resolves your uncertainty, lets you reach the conclusion yourself, rewards your most articulate defense of it, and quietly removes anyone who disagrees. Most people have that environment in their pocket. None of this means you are broken, or weak, or one of those people. It means you have a mind capable enough to convince itself of almost anything, if the conditions are right. The only defense is knowing the mechanism exists before it activates. We have already shown you how silence is used to control a room. Next, we go inside the rooms where these 5 mechanisms are deployed on purpose, and what it actually looks like from the inside. If you are not subscribed, you will not see it when it drops. The most convinced person in the room is not always the one who has thought the least. Sometimes they are the one who has thought about it the most, in exactly the direction they were led to think.